Hey guys, welcome to REsimpli podcast. This is Sharad. I'm the host of the REsimpli podcast. Super excited to have another fantastic guest for you on this podcast, Eric Vogel. Eric, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, man.
Sharad, it is an extreme pleasure to be here. I thank you and your audience for allowing me to be here to share my story and what my wife and I have done in the real estate investment space.
Absolutely, man. We're looking to learn more about that. Great setup, by the way, man. Great setup.
Thanks, I
Anybody
appreciate
watching?
it.
Yeah, anybody listening should check this out on YouTube. Eric, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you're joining in from, how long you have been investing, and what kind of investing do you do?
Outstanding. Yes, sir. So 7 years ago, I was a high school band director just south of Atlanta, Georgia, and I had an accidental rental property. I tried to sell my house, couldn't sell it, ended up meeting my wife. We got married, moved in together, had a old property that I didn't really know what to do with, and I became a landlord. My real estate agent said, well, you can't sell it because you're upside down, because you had a VA loan, 100% financed, you have no equity, you can't sell it. I was like, okay, great. He said, so why don't you just rent it out for a year? Then by then you should have enough equity to sell it. I said, okay, great. 3 or 4 months go by, I place a tenant and become a landlord. My wife and I are newlyweds and we're figuring out life. She said, Eric, you're not managing your rental very well. I said, you don't say. I had a lease, very rough lease that an old lawyer friend of mine drew up. And my wife said, we can do this better. I said, okay, I believe in you. I trust you. And we found bigger pockets and just dove into that. And really, it just gave us a lot of hope that there are other people doing it. Why can't we? So we joined a local meetup and we started talking to locals in our area about what investing looks like. 6, 7 months later, we bought our first investment property that was intentional and became landlords on purpose this time. And that was about 7 years ago. We casted a vision that before we had our first child, we would have replaced both of our incomes with investment properties. And so we sat down really deliberately, built out a roadmap of how we're going to achieve that. And to the day of my wife's maternity leave ending, we hit the number of neither one of us have to go back to work. And so in about 3.5 years, we were able, thank you, we were able to amass enough rental properties and very unique structures and very unique setups to have enough cash flow that we didn't have to go back to work. I quit after only a year of investing and lived off of my wife's salary while we did it. And then I said, I'm going to make sure we make it. And so we just dove into it and never looked up. We gave up 3.5 years of our lives of everything Netflix, everything radio, everything TV. All we did was live, eat, breathe, sleep, real estate investing. That's all we did. And so after we achieved all of that and we became successful in our own way, we decided to write a book about our journey, about what it was like to give up everything and make it happen. And so that's when we wrote our book, The Pathfinder's Journey. It was written as a story on how a young couple can just change their lives through real estate investing. So if any of your listeners are interested in that, the first 30 of them, if they email me, I'll give them a free audiobook.
Cool. Awesome, man. That's very generous of you. It's incredible. So from trying to fix your lease, manage the property better, you decided, hey, this looks pretty good, going on bigger pockets, getting inspired by other people, and like, hey, this looks pretty good. We should do this full time.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. And was it always the goal to own rental properties, like freedom of time and money, or did you want to do some flips, wholesale, and other things also?
I'll tell you, we found a lot of success with being laser focused on one strategy. We did the Burr method, which worked great in 2018, 2019. It's not so much of a home run these days as it used to be,
Right.
just because, equity has risen so much and the cost of even, rehabable homes has increased so much. But there's still a strategy out there that works. But it was our focus to replace our active income with cash flow through investment properties.
So what have you noticed, during your journey? What was the biggest takeaway for you? Was it the focus? Was it, you mentioned like you were hyper focused on like the strategy that you want to do that, the path that you wanted to take. And I tell investors all the time, it's so easy to get distracted looking at Facebook or social media, what other people are doing. Did you notice like that was very important for you just to be hyper focused, put your head down and just don't get distracted?
Right. Yes. Thank you for asking. Early in our investing, we we came across this quote from James Wedmore. We heard him on Bigger Pockets, and then we later have studied with James and are really into his stuff. But he said there was a quote about building a bridge, and he said, you're always going to think the bridge is unbuildable if you build 10 bridges at once, because you'll never be able to finish one. And on the other side of that bridge is, everything you wish to achieve. If you spend your time trying to build 3, 4, 5, 10 bridges at once, which is the shiny object syndrome of, hey, I'm going to wholesale some, I'm going to flip some, I'm going to do some burrs, I'm going to do some short terms. If you're trying to build all those bridges at once, chances are you're not going to achieve getting to the other side. But if you focus all of your energy into building one bridge, you will absolutely reach Dream Island. And that's what we just went all in at the very beginning said. And I'll tell you, in the first couple of offers we made when we first started investing, we did kind of go down some rabbit holes of, hey, this doesn't look like it's going to cash flow as a standard rental. What would it look like if we try to divide it up and make it a duplex? Or what if we make this an Airbnb? Or what if we try to do some type of midterm rental? And we would waste 2 to 3 weeks of energy trying to learn some new strategy that we would lose on making offers on more homes. And so we
Right.
finally had a discussion with each other and said, when we reach financial independence, then we will look at other things. But until we reach it, we're not taking our eyes up. We're going to
Right.
focus on finding off-market deals that are in deplorable condition, and we're going to buy those homes, rehab them, rent them out, refinance them, take any equity gained or any cash that we could take out of it and put it into the next one. And we just kept doing that.
Yeah. I think it's great that you at least, for a brief period of time looked at other investment strategies that you could have gone down,
Mhm.
but then you came back to the one that you felt most comfortable with. So in your mind, I would imagine you didn't have this, nagging feeling of, oh, could we have done better taking a different path? At least you kind of explored that a little bit, and then you came back and said, nope, this is what we're sticking to. This is what our strengths are. Other people may be crushing it with wholesaling, flipping, whatever they might be doing, but this is what we're good at. We have to know our strength and then just keep doing that more and more and more. So that's amazing, man. Congratulations to you and your wife.
Thank
How
you.
are you finding these properties?
Well, it's going to sound crazy because it's hard to do now, but we found them on the MLS. We found them through Zillow and Redfin and things like that. My wife had a very interesting strategy of setting up search filters, of finding 2-bedroom, 1 baths or 2-bedroom, 2 baths that were more than 1,500 square foot, that also had additional dwelling units on them. So we would find these 2 2s or 2 1s that are 1,500 square foot, and automatically, any real estate investor worth their salt is going to tell you if it's 1,500 square foot, there's room for another bedroom, there's room for another
Right.
bathroom if there's not
Agree.
2 already. So that's what we would do. We would go on and find those 2 1s or those 2 2s, and at 1,400 square foot or more, and we'd go make an offer on it, and we'd be able to pick those houses up for $75,000 to $115,000. And as soon as we closed on it, we would be retrofitting it and adding a bathroom, adding a bedroom, and rehabbing the property. And whenever we refied, we now have the built-in equity of, oh, it has one more bedroom, it has
Yeah.
one more bathroom. And we were always able to recover what we put into it and roll it into the next one.
That's such a smart strategy. You're right. Like as soon as you said 1,500 square, I'm like, wow, that's a very big two-bedroom house.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And then people complain all the time that there are not deals to be found on MLS. There's always deals to be found,
Mhm.
but you have to be very intentional about what kind of properties you're looking at rather than just having agents send you all these properties. Be very specific about, hey, these are the kind of properties I want. So then you're not going through 100 properties to find that one deal. You're going through maybe 8 to 10 properties to find that one deal. All right.
Mhm.
So you're finding these deals through MLS. How are you financing these?
Yeah, so there's a strategy there. We find money partners. And if your listeners are out there thinking, like, how the heck do you find money partners? Well, money partners are all around you. They're your family, they're your friends. Most importantly, they're at that local real estate meetup that you attended once or twice and said, oh, I don't have time to go again. Or, oh, something came up I can't go to again. Let me tell you, there's nothing more important than being consistent in attending real estate meetups. Whether you think the meeting is valuable or not, what the most valuable asset at any real estate meeting are the people in the room with you. So you have to be a good networker. You have to be above board in everything you do and say. Don't oversell yourself. Don't say you're doing big things if you're not. And if you are doing big things, keep quiet about it. Add value as much as you can and go ask people, hey, I have this great deal I have under contract and I'm looking to close on it with some private capital or with some hard money. Do you know anybody? And so that's how we found how to do our takedown. So we would go to this real estate meeting every single month consistently. We didn't miss a meeting for 4.5 years, once a month.
Wow.
And by doing that, we built a reputation of my wife and I, these kids, because we were the youngest in the room, right? These kids show up consistently. They're always asking great questions. And I tell you what, I told them to go do something last month. And the crazy thing is, they did it. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of power in that because if someone's giving you advice and they're living the life you want to live and they're being successful in the ways you want to be successful, you would be crazy not to take their advice. But it's so common. So many people go to these real estate meetups and they're like, I want to learn about this. And then they'll meet someone that is very crazy successful in that space. And then they just won't take action. They won't do it.
Right.
And so what they're doing is they're developing a bad, rap with that community. So we would take it down. I'll get back to your question. Sorry. I get on soapboxes sometimes. But what we do is we take it down with hard or private money. We have some private money lenders that are family and friends. We have some hard money lenders that are, businessmen, businesswomen that are in the investment space. Don't confuse private and hard money. They're very different. Just to give a blanket statement, private money are people that are not savvy in the real estate investing space. Hard money are people that are savvy in the real estate investing space. And you're going to see a big difference in the price you pay for that money. Private money is going to be 3 to 4 points below what the hard money people are going to charge.
No, Eric, what you mentioned about RIA, I could not agree with you more. I used to do the exact same thing. I would just show up to these meetings. I'd just show up to these meetings and I would be so curious about what other people were doing, and
Mm-hmm.
I would add value wherever I could.
Yeah.
And interesting thing starts happening after, like, few months of people seeing the same face, every single month, or however often you RIA meet. They start trusting you just because you're showing up. Just because you're showing up. I think, especially in the day and age that we live now, everything is about instant gratification. They want to go to that first meeting and be able to walk away with $100,000 check from a private money lender. It doesn't work like that.
Nope.
I found my first private money lender at the RIA. That person approached me because I was showing up and I would talk about the deals I was doing. I would just talk about what I was doing, wherever I could add value. And yeah, it's just the relationships that you made at the local RIA. It's amazing, everything technology can do, but the relationships that you build at the local RIAs are not like anything else, because
Right.
these are local investors in your area. Just
Mhm.
absolutely, yeah, I could not agree with you more. Are you still going to all the local RIAs in your
Yeah,
area?
absolutely. Yeah, I went last night to one. Just, now I'm not there so much looking for money or deals or
Right.
information. I'm there to continue networking. And you never know if you're going to learn something new at these meetups. Last night I listened to a gentleman talk about how he argued his property taxes using the Monopoly board. And he took it in and went to the board.
Wow.
Uh, and brought a board game and was able to reduce 5 properties income or property taxes by 19% on each one.
Wow.
And so it was very impressive to hear his story and how he approached the board and how he explained it. And you just never know when you're going to pick up a quality good piece of information like that.
That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, some of these people that are doing these amazing things at the local RIAs, like, you never find out about them on Bigger Pockets or other platform. But when you go to these local, specifically to, like, very specific to your local area, yeah, I'm always impressed.
Yeah.
So, you've been investing for 7 years. Are you still continuing to buying properties, or has your, now that you're financially free, has your investment strategy changed since 7 years ago when you started?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. Yeah, we have shifted a little bit. We are now, so we amassed a lot of properties, but they weren't necessarily the properties we want to own when we're in our 60s, 70s, and 80s. And so now we're at a point where after this recent surge of house prices, we're taking a few that don't have a great return on equity, not necessarily return on investment, but not a great return on equity because the equity has soared. And,
Right.
these are $70,000, $80,000 houses that we bought that are now worth $200,000, $300,000 that
Wow.
it's like I'm earning $500 a month on a property that has about $200,000 worth of equity in it. Is that a great return on equity? No, it's horrible.
Right.
Could you make more than $500 a month on $200,000 cash? You should be able to say yes. So we have been selling a few of those in 1031ing into dream properties. And so we recently, back in October of last year, purchased a pretty big development in the mountain towns of Georgia, and we're setting up sort of like a big retreat center up in North Georgia.
Okay, that's amazing. And then, so investors that are starting now, they're looking, listening to this show. What would you suggest that, given where the market is right now with high interest rate, how would they go about starting now and building a financial free life?
Yeah, so I had a conversation with a gentleman last night, specifically in this area. He's low on cash, high on energy. And so I tell him there's so many ways to be successful in real estate. And if you mess up, time is your best friend because time will forgive most everything so long as you can ride the waves of real estate. And so I told him, if you want to get into something with little to no cash, the best way to enter right now, in my opinion, is arbitrage. Now, arbitrage is legal, but you got to be very clear about what you're doing. So not just arbitrage to rent, right? You don't want to rent someone's house just to rent it out to someone else. You want to change the use of that building or that structure. So what I proposed to this gentleman last night was find a house that has a lot of space and a lot of bathrooms, and find something in the $2,000 to $3,000 a month rental range. Approach that landlord, say, hey, I would love to rent your property, but I want to be very clear that I want to use your property as a rent by the room type of house. And some people might do, I want to rent your property out on Airbnb, but I will guarantee you each month that you will get your rent. And here are my references of me being on time. Here's my path of success of, I pay my bills on time, give them a credit report, all that, qualify for it. But be very upfront with that landlord of what you want to do with that property. And chances are, if you offer them more in rent than what they're asking, and you're very clear about what you're doing, and if you give them some type of equity participation, if it performs very well, chances are they'll take a risk on you, right? They'll take a chance on you. You're high risk because you've never done it before. You're new, you're trying to get into this space. But you find you a property that's very large and that has a lot of bathrooms and bedrooms and a living room and a kitchen and all this stuff, right? But you take it and you divide the house up into a lot of bedrooms. Now, you want to check with your municipality and make sure that this is kosher and that it works and that you're not going to get shut down and all this. But you essentially rent the house out by the room. So you set up the house in 7, 8, 9 different bedrooms, and then you start renting those out individually, looking for roommates. And in doing that, you can take what generally would cash or what would rent for of $2,200, $2,500 a month and gross about $5,000 to $6,000 a month. And by doing that, you are able to build up some cash and pay the landlord a little bit more to build some relationship. But also, if you're being very successful and you're treating that landlord very well, chances are they have a friend that they're going to tell. And then they're going to want you to do it at their property because they don't want turnover. What you're giving them is stability. Tired landlords are out there and they want nothing more than to not think about their rental property. So how can you help? Well, you can go use their property for a different use. Or you can approach them and say, hey, I know you've had a lot of turnovers. I've looked at your rental history on Zillow and I've seen that it's gone for rent like 10 times in the past 3 years. I want to
Interesting.
help you, right? I want to help you. I want to be your master tenant. And you tell them, I want to master lease your property. So instead of you dealing with the tenants, you only deal with me. I will deal with the tenants. And so you become the middleman. And then if you are able to set up that proper relationship, they're going to tell other people about it. And you're going to be able to pick up 10, 15, 20 rentals in about a year's worth time. And maybe you're only making $100 to $150 a month on each one. But if you're able to repeat that process, you're able to generate cash flow. And I guarantee you, with building all of these relationships, you're eventually going to find a landlord that says, hey, you've done so well managing this house and making sure I get paid. Do you want to buy this house? And you say, you know what? I'm short on cash. I really don't have the ability to pay you cash. But what if you just sell it to me on owner financing and I'll keep giving you exactly what I've been giving you. And then you take title and then you start capturing depreciation. Then you own the property. They're the bank. They're not worried about anything anymore. They just want to get paid. Right. But now you
Right.
own the house and you have found a way to get into this property with no money down. And you've been cash flowing it for 12, 24, 36 months. And now you have the property with owner financing, which is likely a very low interest rate. So
Right. That's
these are just
incredible. Yeah.
different little strategies that you can get into with little to no money down.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's where the newbie investor that starts. I tell them like the best way to get started is if you, especially if you're low on cash, is to work with other experienced investors. So do creative things like you mentioned. You
Mm-hmm.
don't always have to, you may have an end goal of like flipping or owning rental properties or wholesaling, but you may have to do some other things like side hustles, if you want to call them, to
Yep.
get to that point. Like just like if a newbie investor approached me and say, how can I add value? I'm sure I can think of things. I'm sure, I'm investing out of state. I live in California, investing in Indiana. I can come up with things. Hey, how about you take this part of my business, help me with this, and then you'll learn the ropes along the way. So
Yeah.
absolutely, man. Great idea. Great suggestion on that. So in this case, um, would you suggest a newbie investor to come in and then make some changes to the house? I'm curious, like, would you suggest someone to go and make changes, or the house it's a large house, but instead of just simply renting it as a whole house, you're suggesting someone, recommending someone that they rent it by the bedroom, that the bedroom's already there.
So it's a very unique strategy, one that takes a lot of due diligence, and it
Right.
takes a really strong relationship with that landlord. Because in doing this properly, you're going to be taking the dining room and putting a wall up and calling it a
Got
bedroom.
it.
You're going to take the living room, split it in half, make that 2 bedrooms. You're going to take the unfinished basement and potentially finish it, right? You're going to be adding value to this property, but you're also going to be changing the layout some. So you need
Right.
to make sure you have a very clear path with that landlord, that homeowner. Here's exactly what I want to do, and here's how I'm
Right.
going to achieve it. I'm going to pay for all of the improvements. I'm going to pay for the temporary walls to go up so I can make it a bedroom. I'm going to pay for
Right.
all the furniture that's going to go in there so that I can rent this out by the bedroom. So you do have to have some capital, but it's not going to be more than about $1,000 a room. Uh, if you do it yourself. Now, if you're contracting
Right.
it out, you might be $3,000 to $5,000 per bedroom in improvements.
Right. Hey, I want to ask you something. So you're very successful. You're 10 local REIA. So I'm sure a lot of investors, newbie investors come to you and ask for advice. And there's frequently quoted number that 90% of investors never actually do a deals. I don't know how accurate that is, but yeah, I mean, there is a pretty high number of people that want to be real estate investors never end up being real estate investors. I'm curious if you have seen anything that separates people that are actually go on to be successful versus people that they want to be an investor, but they never actually end up being an investor.
Yeah. So over the course of the past 7 years, people only really started approaching me about 3 years ago after, we released our book and after we launched a podcast and kind of established ourselves of we know what we're doing. We've done it.
Right,
We're not this guru out there saying, hey, go do this cool new
right,
thing. I'm a great teacher, but I've never done it. We're not those people. We have lived it. We have walked it. And so in the past 3, 4 years, I've been approached probably about 80 to 100 newbie investors that either send me an email, send me a DM, find me on Instagram, something, just say, hey, I want to pick your brain. Hey, I want to learn this. Hey, how would you do this? I need help with this. And it's taken me a long time to figure out, how do I actually reach them? How do I actually help them? And the biggest thing that I've come up with is that the people that never follow up with me, or try to continue having conversations about how can they help themselves is they don't understand why they want to do it to begin with. And that
Wow.
goes true with like anyone that tries to start like a new hobby or, go to college or go learn a sport. You know, if your why is not big enough, you're going to run out of fuel. You're going to run out of steam. You're going to run out of interest. If you approach real estate investing with a why, like most people approach their faith, we would see a lot more people stick with it. Now, what do I mean by that? If most people approach real estate like they did faith, of I know why I go to church, or I know why I go to temple, or I know why I go to mosque, those people know why they're doing it. Why are they doing it? Ultimately, it's for salvation. It's for redemption. It's for a relationship with a higher purpose. So if they could approach real estate with that same frame of reference of why do I want to be a real estate investor? Well, do I want to make money? Well, sure, people want to make money, but it's not the money. I promise you it's not the money. It's what does that money get you? And
Yeah.
then below that is about 5 more reasons why it's the money. And then 5 more below that is why it's the money. And it's never the money. It's what that is going to provide them. And it really only comes down to 2 things. It's peace and it's freedom. Peace in their daily life from all external forces and freedom to do what they want with their families, for themselves, for their community, for their faith, for their religion. It's peace and freedom. So I would say the biggest thing that separates those that get started and do nothing and those that become successful is that they have the end in mind. They know exactly why they really want to be a real estate investor.
Man, that's an incredible answer. Yeah, your why needs to be bigger than how, or there's no like, if your why is strong enough, you'll do anything that you need to do to get
Yeah,
to that end result. Yeah, and then we focus on like one thing. Don't get distracted with other things that other people are doing. Just your path, just stick to it, and just know why you're doing it, man. That's one of
absolutely.
the best answers that I've heard. Sadiq, what about like now the stage that you're in, you're successfully established. Like, what's the next big thing for you? What's the next big one thing for you and your wife?
Yeah, so my wife is a fractional CFO. She started her business a couple of years
Okay.
ago, and she does fractional CFO work for real estate investors and for other small business owners. Her one thing, so she has left the education space in our business, and she has started her own business. So the one thing for my wife and that I want to support her journey on is finding clients that truly need transformation in their financial business and helping them to transform and grow so they can have bigger impact. Now, for me personally, I am on a mission to change as many lives as possible. And how am I going to do that? That is through meeting great people like yourself and just sharing the word of be intentional. Be hyper intentional with what you're doing in real estate, with what you're doing in your life, with what you do with all of the time that you are granted to be here on earth. People spend more time planning for a vacation than they ever do their life. And that's such a shame because your life has so much to offer you. But 5 years ago today, Sharad, you wrote a check that you're cashing right now on this podcast with me. And you didn't realize it that you were writing that check 5 years ago, but right now you're cashing it. And I would
Right.
beg to say that you have been hyper intentional about where you wanted your life to go. 5 years ago, you probably had a decent idea of where you wanted to be 5 years from 5 years ago, right? And today
Right.
you are writing a check that you're going to cash in 5 years from now. And so, what is that check going to be worth? And when you cash it in,
Yeah.
who's going to be with you? Who's going to be around you? What is that check going to do for you? What is it going to provide you? Is it going to give you more peace and freedom, or is it going to take away from your peace and freedom? So, I would say my one thing is helping people understand the importance of hyperintentionality, and I'm trying to do that through our book, The Pathfinder's Journey. But more importantly, this summer we're launching a program called Level Up, where we're going to be selling my flagship course. Is called Dream Life University, where in a 6-week program I transform people's lives and I open up possibilities for them through my program.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. Is it for real estate investors
It
or
is
for
for
just
So it is very real estate focused. There is a lot of content in my program surrounding real estate, but honestly, it is for anyone that is looking to gain clarity on where the heck they want to go with their life. Too many
right?
people just have loose goals. They have loose ideas of what a goal might sound good, right?
Right.
They don't really have firm, actionable steps to take to reach certain goals, and that's what I help them with.
That's amazing, man. That's, yeah, many, many congratulations to you on all the success you've had, and good luck
Well,
with the
thank you.
new program that you're launching, man. Yeah. I mean, the answer that you said is, I 100% agree, man. Just being intentional about whatever you're doing, in
Mhm.
your life, in your work, whatever you're doing, even when you're spending time with your kids, be intentional. Hey, this is my time with kids. Don't be on your phone spending time with kids. Don't do anything half-assed. Just if you're doing
Yes.
something, just give it your 100% focus, even if it's for 10 minutes. That's
Mhm.
it. It's like it just gets you in a meditative state. I notice for me, just when you're hyper focused on that, you feel so energized afterwards because
Oh
you're
yeah.
not jumping from one thing to another. Great, great answer, man. Cool, man. This has been incredible. Just have moving on to the next segment. I want to ask you. You seem like the kind of guy who reads a lot of books. You've written a book. So, what's been the most influential book in your life? It could be a personal book, it could be a business book, or you could name one of each.
The most influential book I've ever read in my life has to be hands down the Bible. That just it will teach you everything you need to know about being successful in life. And if you don't read the Bible, maybe pick up a Quran or something other than the Bible. I promise you, any religious text like that teaches so many lessons. And it teaches you how to do right by people and how to basically live a life worth living. So that I would say that is the first book that I would find major influence in my life. But let's go into real estate investing. I read a book called Rhinoceros Success by Alexander Scott, and
Okay.
that book has stuck with me. It was the first book I ever read on real estate investing, and has nothing to do with real estate investing. It's basically learning how to transform your daily actions into that of a rhino. And at the end of the book, it says, write on a post-it note, I am a rhino. And then the second thing you write is a crazy goal that you think you would never be able to achieve. And so on the fridge for about 6 months was this post-it note that said, I am a rhino. I'm buying 2 houses this year. And believe it or not, it
Wow.
happened, and that was
Wow.
like the first book I read
Dude, thank
on
you,
real
man.
estate.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll get out. And now that you're financially free, what do you guys do for fun?
Oh boy. We have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old son, and they are absolute maniacs. And so I spend most of my time when I'm not interacting with students or clients or with tenants. I've spent all of that time trying to keep my children alive because they are on a mission to unalive themselves every day.
Yeah, I know. I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're
But I
handfuls.
also play guitar and I enjoy listening to podcasts. I enjoy learning new things. So, yeah.
That's awesome, man. All right, last question. If you could spend a day with anyone, dead or alive, who would you want to spend that day with and why?
That is such a difficult question because you open up like the dead part and it's like, well, you could be anyone. Um,
Could be anyone.
I think it would be someone along the lines of like Plato or
All right.
Julius Caesar. And I know Julius Caesar would be like really difficult to spend time with because it'd probably kill you really quickly.
Yeah.
Um, but he was so influential. He was so powerful. He grew the biggest nation that the world had ever seen.
Yeah.
And just to get some understanding into how did you influence so many people? I know there was a lot of slavery back then. I know the Egyptians were just like crazy and it was wild. But I think if I could spend a day with anyone, dead or alive, I think it'd be Julius Caesar.
Yeah.
Just because he was highly influential, highly powerful. He could lead masses into building empires. And that just seems impressive to me.
Yeah.
So
No, absolutely great answer, man. All right. If anyone wants to connect with you, learn more about the mission that you have and how you're trying to help real estate investors and entrepreneurs in general, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and have a website. On Facebook and Instagram, it's just that little / on purpose investor. And if they want to go on our website and check out our podcast or anything that we have to offer there, it's just onpurposeinvestor.com. And if you'd like to email me directly, your listeners are welcome to do that. And I hope they do, to get a free copy of that audiobook of The Pathfinder's Journey. That is Eric, ERIC, at onpurposeinvestor.com.
Absolutely, man. We'll put the links in all our show notes. Eric, thank you so much, man, for being on the podcast. It's been incredible. Like, you're such an inspiration. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Sharad, thank you so much.